Hello and welcome to the Addicts Anonymous podcast. I'm your host, Jamar. Today's episode 220, and I'm going to be interviewing Francis. How you doing, Francis?
I'm doing good, Jim. Thanks for having me on here.
No, I'm really happy to have you. I'm excited to do this. So let's get started here. Tell me about your childhood growing up. How was that?
Childhood, Catholic. My mom's Mexican, and my dad's from Kentucky, and they believed in discipline.
Your mom's from your mom was from Mexico?
Her parents were from Mexico, Mexico City. When the Spaniards came through, her family were almost killed by the Spaniards in Mexico City, and so they came across to California.
Gotcha.
Her parents, as when they were kids. So my mom is first generation Mexican here in California, and my dad's family, his family is traced all the way back to Maryland, I believe. The Howards in Maryland, and four brothers traveled to Kentucky, Whitesville, Kentucky, and I'd imagine that says a lot about it. It's not a family name. It was Whitesville, Kentucky, and been there a couple times over my lifetime. I absolutely love it, but there is, there is some old time South social. What is the social norm there? But that's not why I'm here. That's not what I want to get into. And grew up in Chino, California. Born 1967, and went to Catholic school. I remember the first house we grew up in had these closet doors that were made from pegboard material. So it was a white panel with these dots on it. I remember sitting there staring at these dots. I don't know what brought me to do this, but I stared at these dots till I got that snowblind effect, and I could raise the dots up off of the white background, and I just found that amazing. I found that absolutely amazing to augment, I guess that's a current catchword, to augment my reality myself. So that was my first check-in with escapism and being familiar with altering my perception and my feel and my consciousness. And I would sit there and stare at it. Of course, it would freak my parents out, that I would sit there and stare at this thing for so long, and I would just go away. And then, as I said, my parents, not that no parents don't believe in discipline, but my parents believe in physical discipline. Again,
is that what you were trying to escape? Is that what you were trying to escape from?
Not what I remember. No. Sometimes the norm is the norm. This is what it is. There were certain things that I remember. It was a physical discipline with a psychological aspect. I would do something wrong, and I remember specifically a certain process was, my dad said, "You get 3 spankings for this. You come tell me when you want the next one." And I remember that being a real mind fuck. I'm sorry, is cussing?
No, that's okay. That would scare the shit out of me too.
Yeah, and it's like, and you're telling this to like a 5-year-old kid, and my dad used belts,
and they would leave bruises and stuff.
I have my feelings about that, and actually we'll get into that later. Where my feelings arise. So, my mom and dad had my mom's grandfather was raised Catholic, went into the Navy, World War II, to become an American citizen. Something about going to the Navy, and at a certain point, once you saw battle, or once this happened, once you crossed the equator on a naval ship or something, I could have this completely wrong. I believe that's when you became an American citizen. But I know that he was very proud of that. I did not know my maternal grandmother. I did know my father's mother and father. Um, I remember him being mainly gruff, but then by the time the last cousin was born, he had softened up quite a bit, and he was real kind and gentle. My grandmother was a nurse in World War II, and was rather a staunch woman, loving, kind, firm. Did not think twice about spanking you on your bottom if you were a dick. If you're being a brat, if you deserved it, she would correct you, but she wasn't overbearing with it. Wasn't like go get a switch kind of folk from Kentucky. My grandfather was gruff and loud, and um, would say certain things, and
What do you mean by
uh,
the word gruff?
rough on the
Oh, rough with an R. I thought you
short.
said gruff with a G.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Oh,
Short, abrupt, kind of rough with it. For a living, he did a number of things. Alcohol abuse goes way back in my family. He was known for the still building. This is my grandfather now. His ability to build excellent stills in Kentucky. And the family rumor, or his family lore, is that in Murray, Kentucky, there's a still on display that was taken by the revenuers. That is one that he built, and it's in a museum at the tip of Kentucky Lake. He learned how to operate machinery working for the TVA, Tennessee Valley Administration, or something like that. But basically, World War II vets come back, they need a job. Let's build a giant lake in Murray, Kentucky. He learned to work construction, and that's what brought him out here to California. Was he built the 405, the 5, worked on the beginning of the 210 way back when, and this is all California stuff, so it's very local and it's all very relevant to us here. But at any rate, he had something to do with that stuff, and that's what brought the Howards to California, and it worked very well for him. My dad, as I was a child, worked at Kaiser Steel, and it was a hard job. It was a very hard job, and it created a stigmatism for hard work in my life. And it was something scary to me that took my father away. That when he came home, sometimes he was what we referred to in my teenage years as the bear. You walk in, if you made him talk to you, you were going to regret it. If you leave him alone, let him do what he wants to do, or if worse yet, you make him do his job as a father, you're gonna fucking regret it, kind of thing. So he liked to come home, shut off. My mom was young. Her mom died early, so she knew very little about mothering and being a wife. And she marries this hillbilly boy from Kentucky, and he's all party and work and go, and she is just kind of left to raise the kids. And her influence was his mom. Oh, they got worms, do this. It's not a big deal, they'll live. Oh, they fall down, don't do that, just leave them alone. And certain things were said and done, and now my mom really sees the value in that. She really sees the value in what my grandmother, my father's mother, taught her and how she taught her. She was no nonsense, cut a lot of bullshit out. Pick them up, put a band-aid on, send them back outside, hope they get sick, because then they can fight it when they need to. So that's kind of the dynamics of my early childhood. and started going to school at a public school in a place called Los Serranos, California. That's where we live, next to a golf course in Los Serranos, California. Still had some hillbilly ways, and we'd go off fishing bluegill in the golf course, no less, as a young kid. And the last time I went there, I was in high school. Dropped some acid, went fishing. Didn't really, just kind of tripped on fishing and all that stuff. So that was one of the good times. Not, those run out. Those run out. So, anyways, my childhood, Catholic school, violent nuns.
My mom went to Catholic school, and she said growing up, the nuns would whack you with the ruler on the hand, on the fingers.
If you were lucky.
If you were lucky.
You were lucky. There was a 4-foot nun, knocked the shit out of me, knocked me out of my chair. Full on, cross the face, open palm. I didn't do my homework. Smack, pick myself up, crying, wondering what the hell just happened, but not unfamiliar to the physical abuse part.
Because you were used to it from home.
Yeah, it was a norm. It was a communication tool, for the quote unquote those people, that generation. Communication tool. I do not put a whole lot of emphasis on that. I put a whole lot of emphasis on, I understand why I believe it's wrong to act that way, not appropriate to act that way. I understand what I'm about, and I try to keep that to myself. I try to keep that to my perspective, because that's very important. I feel that is very important, to keep my opinion separate, in a separate classification from my values and my morals. And that is something that allows me to make amends, keep amends, change my behavior. I think you're fucked up, not no, your morals are wrong. My opinion on how people want to live their lives, or how they want to get sober, or what they want to do in their sobriety, doesn't have a whole lot to do with what I believe to be right and wrong. My opinion, I try and keep clear that is my opinion. When I sponsor people, I tell them we will discuss the book, and we will also discuss opinion and experiences. Know this: there is the book, there is the program, there is the step, there's the 12 concepts and the 12 traditions, and then there's opinion. Everything after that is opinion based on experience. My opinion is, if you're not going to meetings, if you're not working with a sponsor, if you're not doing your program, you're going to go use, because that's what we do. And it's not always alcohol or drugs. Sex, food, money, work, isolation, anger, righteousness. My God, I think righteousness is one of the greatest underestimated drugs in the world. To be right and to be wronged, and to have that righteousness. Fucking road rage, here in California, getting out and shooting at someone, shooting from one car to the other, that is based on righteousness. That is that feeling gone wrong of righteousness. And that's a good idea. At some point, that person thought they disrespected me. They got in front of me. They did this. They didn't let me do this. I have the right to do this. They stopped me. Step. Next thing you know, you're shooting out a window at them. That is righteousness. You did this to me. You owe me. That is a trap. That is an addict trap. And it starts with righteousness. And the flip side of righteousness is forgiveness. And forgiveness is an amazing thing, that the program is an inside job, but we practice it out there to bring it in here. we practice it out there with others, so that I go make amends and I ask for forgiveness and ask, and amends is not just I'm sorry, but what can I do to make things right? And and then ask for forgiveness, receive forgiveness, forgive others, and then I can bring forgiveness into myself. When I can practice it out there, I can practice it in here, and that brings me peace. At which point I can get what I'm truly after, what I believe. Again, this is my belief and my opinion. What every human being is after can be boiled down to two things, and that is faith and love. And whenever you have lack of faith and lack of love, you will be led to a want, lust, deviant behavior, addiction, acting out in deviant behavior. And again, which is apply anything to it. Back to all that, the abuse stuff, back to school. I've got one friend who I met in second grade. We were friends and friends and friends and friends. We are still friends to this day. I'm 55 years old. I've known him for 48 years now. I have in the program my sobriety date. I guess I should have started with that then. My sobriety date is December 3rd, 1990.
Good
so
for you.
as
So
of
long
this date,
time, long time.
I have 32 years, completely undeterred by growth. As my sponsor once said, always follow it up with that, because you need to understand where you're at. And I don't say that to say I've as much the concept I want to express with that is that means I have fucked up and had to fix more shit in my life than someone with less time. At this point, my wreckage is done in sobriety. When I got sober at 23, I hadn't been married. I had maybe one or two girlfriends, and not even that. I was such an addict, and I'm not even a dealer. I couldn't hold on to anything dealing. I had little permanence in my life. That is not a theme in my life, permanence. When I left home, nothing was permanent. I lived on couches, and not just lived on couches. I moved from Southern California to Northern California, a place called Coloma, and that was in '87, and continued my wreckage and my partying. Had some great partying there, had some really good times. I could still go back there and meet one person that I know of that would accept me and love me, but everything else was like, even the sheriff, every time he saw me when I came back home, I'd go there. He would literally even just find a reason. If it was a traffic stop, he would stop me and talk to me and put me in cuffs. Or should I say, he would arrest me and then start talking to me. He saw me or claimed to see me as a violent person. Never involved in violence. He just knew I was involved in drugs. I wasn't good news, and he wanted me out of his town. And the best way to do that was to get into a controlled situation where he made it clear that he was going to be in control of my life if I was in his town. And it was such bullshit, trumped up shit that I did. I wrote some bad checks for some cash. He used me as a scapegoat on someone. He did a couple of things, pressured some people into making a false claim on me. Not that I earned it. It's real easy to go, and then that motherfucker. No, I was no good. And then that was the worst kind of no good. I wasn't bad enough to just outright arrest. I was just on the fringe. I was just loafing. I was just bumming off of people, living off of people's goodwill. I didn't deal, so I never had enough on me to bust me with. I didn't have a job, so I never you know, I could never support myself. I was a weight, a dredge on society. I was a weighted down piece on his small society, and there's little room for that. There's no what do they say? There's no fat people in the hills, you know. And fat people aren't people that are out of shape. It's fat people are, you know, living off the fat, off of the deeds and goodwill of others, you know, taking up space without having much value, you know. And I was a fat people, and he trimmed the fat, you know. I've been back there once where he did not harass me, and I think it's because he was up and off the streets. But that was again in '87, so it's been a while. I got sober in '90. He had an influence on me. Still got a resentment against him. So yeah, you know, that's possible. A 35 year, 36 year resentment. Yeah, I'll fucking carry that, you know. Not proudly, not, you know, but again, he did that to me. I got to remember that. He did that to me. That's where my, you know, my addict behavior goes. So my childhood, back to my childhood, I was not an idiot. I did very well in school when I attended and when I took tests, but to waste my time on homework, I was too bored. I was always in trouble for not doing the work, but they couldn't kick me out because I do so well on the test. And and so as a result, I think someone's coming up to my door.
And
thank you. I forgot where I was though.
we're just talking about your childhood. You
High
were
school,
kind of on the cusp where you weren't good.
Yeah, oh yeah. High school, I was doing okay. I was smart. I was taking tests. I got into some serious trouble when I went to my chemistry class to talk to my chemistry teachers. The only class I was passing at the time. Everything else was a D. I was getting an A in that class because I freaking love chemistry, science. And the chemical locker was unlocked, and I had got a pound of sodium, and I knew exactly what I had and what to do with it. And I made bombs.
Really?
Yeah. And I mean, in this day and age, you know, the age of TSA, to say I made bombs sounds scary. You put sodium with pure sodium, it's like a metal clay. You put it with water and it reacts violently, which means it catches on fire. And if it's a ball, it'll bounce around on water due to the energy releasing and all this stuff, and it'll melt down. And then once it melts the clay, and so it all comes in contact with the water, it blows up. So I would put some in a bottle and throw it out the truck. My cousin and I drove around making these things, and we throw it out the truck, and it would blow up. Which led me to blowing up the bathroom. And I don't mean I set them off. I mean, I went to the stall, I pulled out a piece, I flushed a toilet, I threw it in the toilet. It was in the pipes when that reaction happened, and it launched every piece of that toilet in every direction. And it took parts of that toilet and it sent it directly across, and it broke the urinals directly across from me. It wasted the two toilets next to it. A piece hit a window. Of course, the news made it out. The newspapers back then made it all out. This, and this. I used to have a stack of papers this thick on all of it. And it did a job. It did a number on that bathroom. And now my luck comes into view. That was on a Wednesday. I did that. On Saturday, it was slated to be demoed and remodeled, that bathroom. And the bathroom was attached to the locker room. So it was a bomb that went off. People were terrified. They didn't know what the hell it was or what was going on. They would have emptied out the school if it was today, but everyone was like, what the hell was that? And it was an M80. Oh, is this, is that, Me and one guy knew what the hell happened, and we just could not stop laughing. They thought we were stoned in the class in PE because all we did was just stand there and laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh. And and of course, running around doing these bombs, doing this, doing that. It wasn't long before I got busted, got arrested, flat out arrested in high school. Obviously kicked out. Pardon?
What were you arrested for?
Blowing up the fucking bathroom.
Oh, they did catch you for that.
Yeah, they did catch me for stealing,
okay.
for stealing, blowing up the bathroom, this. They arrested me, and me and my cousin. They arrested my cousin and I, my father's brother's son, and we were trouble. And they arrested us, threw us in a cell together, and we actually just laid there and cracked up because we were protected in there. It was like, all right, throw us in a cell. At least you ain't gonna beat the living shit out of us. Like, what's gonna happen when we get home? Well, we're good. We could lay here. And it's like, hey, I'm hungry. Yeah, we'll bring you some hamburgers. Okay, cool. Of course, they were bullshitting us, but it was like, no, I'm good. I'm good sitting right here. At that point, my dad, in the history of the abuse, my dad had sent me to school, grade school, 3rd grade, with a bloody lip, black eye, belt welts showing on my arms or here, there, it was not an issue. It was not no one called the cops when I showed up with a bloody lip, actually bleeding, because 15 minutes going home, it happened. Or, everyone just kind of looked at me and said, wow, fuck. So we're doing math, and that's what I did. I sat down and went, okay, we're doing math.
How old were you at the time you did meth?
Pardon?
How old were you at that time when you first tried meth?
No, not meth, math. English, math. It was like sat down like, oh, this is normal. We're doing math now. Sit down with a bloody lip, clean up a little bit, black eye, and other students look at me and, well, what's the lesson today, teach? Move on, nothing to see here, move along. Just,
that's crazy.
8-year-old coming to school with a black eye and a bloody lip, and not in it. I was dropped off like that, and it wasn't like there were bullies waiting for me between the parking lot and the classroom, that was the time. We're talking 1975, showing up at school, obviously abused, and it's acceptable. Not only acceptable, but you fuck up at school, you get that from the nuns too. They had the parents sign a form saying capital punishment, or they can hit you also. And I got swatted with a paddle at school. A couple other things happened there. But I, that was the norm. So being arrested, being held in jail, wasn't that impressive to us. Going home, the beating I had waiting for me going home, that's what was on my mind.
That's scary. That's a sad state of affairs when you're more scared of your own father than going to jail. Because I hated jail. I've never been in for an extended period of time, but every time I've been arrested, I couldn't wait to get out of there. It's just I don't like being restricted the way they do that. I can't sit in the cell. It drives me insane.
I've been 6 times, all for bullshit. And now, if you want to talk about bullshit, we're talking $25 tickets that I didn't go pay. FTAs and FTPs, fail to appear, fail to pay. They'd show up, they'd stop me, arrest me, throw me in there. Someone come and pay the ticket, get me out. And okay, where's your car? drive me to my car. And they didn't have to impound you when they arrested you back then. Impound your car when they would arrest you back then. Hold on one second. So I, that's my experience with jail, the first time. My dad kept me out of school the rest of the year, put me to work at his welding shop, and Kaiser Steel had closed by that time, and he opened up a welding shop, and we built structures and did a couple other things, and I stayed at the shop, and basically worked the whole 6 months, the rest of the school year, and then summer. And one day he paid me $5 and says, "That's what you get," you know. And then that was the last of it. The beating never came. He just kind of took me home and like, yeah, well, kind of fucked that up, didn't you? Went to continuation school, and I, to some extent, I ran that thing. They handed me a book, said, "Here's your homework." And I said, "Okay, cool." And I came back the next day. I said, "Okay, I'm ready for my next book." And they said, "What do you mean?" And I said, here's my book. And I went home, and according to what they were handing out, I had done a semester of work in one night in 3 subjects. Well, you said that was my homework. So I did my homework. And I sat down, I did math, I did science, and I did some English. I said, "I'm not done with the English, but I can finish it today. I can get it in today. Don't worry." And that's my Catholic education carried me on that. And they thought I was a genius. And I would have to say, let's just say I understand why they thought I was a genius. I got away with murder because of that. I wasn't there because of drugs. I wasn't there because of this. They looked at me and they looked at why I was there. They go, oh, we get it, And someone took some pity on me. School would start, it would go from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and I was absolute heaven, because I'd go to my friend's house and we'd get stoned and go to school and then go, I did basically a year's worth of work. I went from 10th grade, where I started off in 10th grade at continuation school, and I did all the way up to my 11th grade in about 6 weeks. And then I started smoking pot. And I remember my first hit. Drinking wasn't as much a part of my story as much it was just wallpaper. It was everywhere. It was ubiquitous. Drinking was not a big deal. Good pot. This was back in the day where it was nothing like today. The kind of stuff they're selling at dispensaries that you can get on the street. You could damn near get it for free. This stuff, an ounce would have gone for $500, and that's just coming from what I've heard and learned about it. It was unheard of. This kind of quality of stuff that is just commonplace today. The Starbucks of marijuana is incredible, and you could have ruled the town if you could come up with something like this. So a lot of it was dirt weed, a lot of it was this and that, and and I had no fear. I had no fear of any drug. I had read about and educated myself to some extent in a class called CSA, Career and Social Awareness, and they told you about drugs, and I saw it as a guidebook. Oh, to do this, you'd mix these. To do that, you mix those. If you take 1 codeine and a beer, it's like drinking 6 beers. If you take this and this, it's like doing this. Don't mix these. If you mix these and these, they can interact and this problem happens. If you drink a lot of alcohol and smoke PCP, there's a good chance that you will have a really bad interaction. And sure enough, that happened. You know, when I smoked PCP and was drunk, it was a bad time. When I just smoked PCP, I was high as a kite and loving it. Um, but that
How
was,
old were you when you first tried a drug? You said it was marijuana. How old were you?
no, my actual first drug was we went to. My mom heard about this show, and it was a real fun show. And my cousin took me, my best friend, my mom, her cousin took me, my best friend, and my sister and her best friend, and we all went to see midnight showing of Rocky Horror. And on the way there, he handed me a cross top, which uh, don't exist anymore. I believe it was speed. It
Okay.
was amphetamine, small white pill with a cross on it, and they called them cross tops. And he handed me one, said, "Here, do this." And I'm like, "Fuck yeah, okay, I'll do it." What is it? You know, after I took it, oh, it's speed. No idea what that is. Okay. And I continue on. You know, that didn't really do the whole thing. One cross up didn't do a whole lot. I could feel something. I was a little bit excited, you know. Didn't keep me up all night. Um, there was what else? Then I smoked pot. I actually took that and then I smoked pot, and it didn't really do anything to me. The second time, I remember getting high as hell in my friend's bedroom and just being like, "Oh, this is awesome," you know, and escapism. Going back to that panel and with the dots on it and the snowblind and the escapism. The reason I could sit there and stare at it was that I could escape. I used music to escape as a child. I had a little transistor radio at some point, and I'd put it under my pillow, and I'd go to sleep. And this little AM station played Captain and Tennille Muskrat Love every night. And I remember that song putting me to sleep every night, and I freaking loved it. I had visuals, and I could the checking out thing, the escapism was so strong with me. I remember um, in my first house, we we moved when I was 7 into another part of the town, and basically from no sidewalks in the hills of Chino to sidewalks parked across the street, track homes, two-story pool in the back, freaking hometown USA. Um, and I remember for some reason laying in bed one night and just focusing in the dark on this little shelf. And I came up with this whole little scene in my head. And next thing I know, I was willing I don't want to say hallucination, but a visual. I started willing a visual of watching a little scene play out on this shelf. And it was all in my head and I knew it. You know, I always had the wherewithal to say, this isn't reality, I'm doing this. And that was before drugs, well before drugs, 5, 6 years before I picked up a drug. But the escapism, the thing is, I knew the escapism, and I knew I wanted escapism, and I liked it, and I enjoyed it. Um, so when I first got high, I was to back up a little bit. There's a term called hypervigilance and disassociation. When someone is being traumatized, they quite often disassociate, which means you have this front here and your consciousness is back here like this, and you get to see your attacker, the event. It's, you know, people say, and it was like in slow motion, you know, and you have a clear thought, you don't have the fear, you are able to remove yourself from that position, and you disassociate and escape. You know, this is where the staring at the holes came in, and the escapism was triggered uh, during the physical abuse. You know, my father, who still is taller than me, broad shoulders, a big man, and beating on a little 13-year-old kid, I guess, at this one point when I remember he open palm hit me, and his hand was the size of my head, and I went to the floor, and I remember standing up and just like looking at him, and I remember consciously triggering the disassociation, you know, and going away. And it enraged him because he knew I had just left. He could look at me and go, he just went away. I lost him. He's running away from me. And I can do anything to him and I can't reach him. He's out of reach. And it absolutely enraged him. And so it got worse, and you keep saying, I can't imagine X, that sounds terrifying. I don't dwell on that statement very much, simply because if at this point, if you're still listening to my story, you know what the hell I'm talking about. I don't need, you can take yourself there. I don't need to do it. It's relatable. There's a good chance that we used our drugs for escapism because we knew reality could suck, so we wanted it different at one point, and we did something like this, or so saying, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm minimalizing or deflecting. I'm just saying, life wasn't perfect, and I can deal about coping with it much more than I can deal about that. That's familiar. My story starts on when I take control, so to speak, you know, and that is disassociation, you know, that is, oh, I want to get high. I used to love to get high and drive, and I never got in an accident. Um, Drove on PCP, meth, obviously, marijuana, drunk, been arrested drunk, no DUI. It wasn't because I was drunk. Got stopped high. They dumped my pot. Um, Tripping balls on acid, and kept my shit together because I knew it was in my head. Got a sobriety test and everything. Couldn't do a damn thing because I didn't react out of the blue. I held my shit together going, this is all normal, you know? Um, so that grip on reality, the abuse, creates a situation called hypervigilance, kind of like a paranoia. Paranoia being uh, a a mental problem. Hypervigilance is a condition on which you are aware of your surroundings, and I have it now, but I am self-aware that I kind of enjoy it. I like knowing my surroundings, but that it could come at any time. When you were raised by a parent who, you picked the wrong day to ask for something. I remember one time, hey Dad, can I take the car? Yeah. And then I had to ask him for the keys, which were in his pocket, and he took them out and he threw them at me so hard they stuck in the door behind me. And then an hour later, he's all like, "What the fuck is this hole here? What the hell did you do now?" I was like, "Oh, that was the keys," you know. So, that's, and I when I was out there using, I got laid, but I wasn't in a relationship at any point. But my escapism, I knew that I could escape, and I knew how to escape and how far to escape. I knew when things were going wrong and I had to keep my shit about me. I knew when I was in dangerous situations and could hold it together enough to get myself out in dangerous situations, meaning, you know, going to wrong place, wrong time, and there's guns on the table and gang members and tattoos and all that shit, and walking away, you know, keeping my mouth shut, pissing off someone with a gun, and being able to talk my way out of it, you know, being an ass, just saying making the wrong joke at the wrong person, and everyone laughs, and then it's like, oh, you think it's funny, Holmes? You know, kind of answers. And, you know, Joe Pesci in Goodfellas. Oh, you think I'm funny? You know, I'm a funny guy. How am I
Oh,
a
I
funny
love
guy? You
Goodfellas.
know,
I
they're like,
love
fuck
Goodfellas. And
me. You know, I was, you know, Goodfellas terrified me. Because you remember in Goodfellas, there's Spider, Michael
Mhm.
Imperioli. He's this guy bringing them drinks when they're
Playing cards.
playing cards and shit, and he Pesci disrespects him. You know, I don't even remember Pesci's character's name, but Pesci disrespects him, and he goes, "Yeah, real funny, blah blah blah." And Pesci shoots him in the foot. Now everyone's like, "Now we gotta fucking deal with this. Damn it! Can't you not shoot someone?" You know. And then you know, he doesn't learn his lesson, and then Pesci just outright kills him. That would be me. I was fucking Spider. That terrified me. Next, what terrified me was the chainsaw scene in Scarface. But that was before I started using. Actually, that was when I was 13. That 13 or 14 when that movie came out, and that freaking terrified me. Um, and to the point to where I kind of flashed on that or that situation or the people with that ability. Um, you know, when I was there and I was aware when I was around those kind of people, you know, and I could get out every time, thank God. Um, Ended up getting into meth. I remember doing meth the first time. I did coke, loved coke. Did of course to come down off of coke was the hardest withdrawals I ever expected. I never did heroin just because I was never around it, never hung around people.
What was the first
Um,
time you started doing the hard drugs? How old were you?
16. Some girls, the girl, I would go to her house across town, across Chino, over towards Pomona, and we'd get stoned at her place and go to school. Her best friend Sepha, Rhonda, started dating my best friend Steve, who grew up with me and went on to Catholic high school after Catholic school. They ended up dating. So Sepha, short for Josepha, um, Seth and I became just the hangarounds, and you know, not really girlfriend boyfriend, but we're their best friends. We weren't really. I wasn't her type. She wasn't my type. But man, we partied a lot, and we were damn good friends. And the four of us went everywhere, did everything together. When Rhonda and Steve went to Iron Maiden, Sepha and I sat there and were like totally bummed, not because we didn't go, but because our other two friends weren't there. And when they went, they were thinking about us and how much fun it would have been if we could afford it to go. You know, the four of us were just a group, a great clan, and our connections. We had connections all over the town. If someone didn't know how to get it, the other one did, and people liked us. Um, and Sepha's brother started selling PCP. We were meth being a hard drug. Um, I started doing coke. I don't remember the first time I did coke, believe it or not. No, yeah, I do. Um, Putting in sprinklers at my house. Steve says, "Hey, when we get paid for this, we could buy some cocaine." I'm like, "Yeah." You know, we got a quarter gram of coke, and that lasted us. My God, get this, quarter gram lasted us all weekend between two people. It's like, oh my God, that was the last time I ever saw that. You know, that was incredible. Um, but that's not as memorable as my meth use. There was I don't remember doing meth for the first time. I remember enjoying snorting coke and snorting meth. I didn't like smoking anything very much. I always liked snorting so much more. Um, I don't remember doing meth for the first time. I just know, damn, that fucking burns. I remember that. I remember my face turning bright red. I remember my eyes tearing up. I remember that heat and, just that burn. Oh my God. Um, you know, uh, the hardcore drug I remember the most was Cepha's brother sold PCP, and she knew where he would sell cools, which is you take a cool cigarette, super cool, and you dip it in the bottle of PCP, and then you sell that for $25. And I'm like, $25, my God. And we dipped a half of one, and we smoked it. Me, Cepha, and Rhonda smoked it, and we were high as kites. And Steve was pissed. I was kind of bummed. Steve was doing something, and uh, and it was like, oh my God, and came back down, and it was like a Thursday night, and I remember walking in, going, whew. So I'm gonna watch TV with it was still in high school, and I'm gonna watch TV with the family now. Right on. And was perfectly normal, nothing suspected. Everyone was, my sister was doing her thing, I was doing my thing. I do have a sister. I forgot that part. I do have a sister. We're 10 months apart, so we're very close.
Irish twins,
She
they call it.
continued. Pardon?
Irish
Pardon?
twins, they call that.
Yeah, Irish twins. Yeah. And she went on to Catholic school when I went to public school. Um, there was Damien High School for the boys and Pomona Catholic High School for the girls, and we didn't intermingle. I had some pretty hardcore friends. Looking back, my friends were hardcore, and I'd bring people around, and my family's going, "These are not our people, Frank. Well, who are they?" I'm like, "They're good people." Basically, they were people who I had enough on that they wouldn't dare think of doing anything around my house, because I wasn't a fighter. I could never fight or anything like that, but I knew shit. You know, I was kind of a Tyrion. I drink and I know things. You know, that was quite my gig. Was I knew things about people. I had information, connections. Key people liked me. Very powerful people in the underworld liked me in Chino, and I didn't get away with things. I got accepted. That's what it was. Is I got accepted, and um, I got away with things as far as the cops go. You know, they knew who I was, but they also knew I was impotent and not couldn't do anything, didn't do anything, didn't had no weight, on the street or nothing. They just knew that I was around, and all this makes sense as to certain questions that were asked when I would get stopped or this or that. Where are you coming from? Have you seen so and so? And it's like, I wasn't at that person's house. How do they know I was there? When I got stopped, um, so I did PCP the first time, did acid, went to a party, and was cracking up with shit, pointing at stuff on the wall and stuff. People are like, what's up with him? Oh, he's tripping for the first time. Oh, right on. Oh, that's cool. Turn off the lights, do that. It was great. Everyone was supportive. Yay, he's on everything. And just uh, I forgot where that was going, but the
You're tripping for
PCP.
the first time, you said.
Yeah, I was tripping for the first time, but there was something that led me to that. Oh, when I got pulled over on acid, I couldn't do acid with anyone this one day. And I had someone I was going to do it anyway. So I drove to this person's house. And it was football season. The football was coming off the TV, and I was cracking up. And I told him, dude, I'm sorry, I'm on acid. He says, I know. this happened to be a judge's son, in Chino, a judge's son in Chino. This was after high school. He and I went to the Catholic school together, and I'm hanging out at a judge's house on acid, basically. And uh, and he's all like, "Yeah," and we used to party together a little bit. He didn't smoke pot, but he drank, and I left there, and I run into this little chola chick who I had a huge crush on at a liquor store. She says, "Hey, what's going on, man? Give me a ride over to my friend's house, and all this." And I'm like, "Fuck yeah, Christy, I'll take you." I almost said her last name. Don't need to do that. So we go over there. Christy, short little, beautiful little girl. We go over there. She goes in the house. She says, "I'll be right back." Comes out, and we pull away, and I'm in my truck and pass a cop. And she does the whole, it's the cops. And she's like sitting on the bench seat. She's got one hand on the seat and one hand on the dash, and I'm driving and I'm on acid. And she does this move, and I'm like, wow, okay. And I see the cop turn around. I'm like, fuck, he's gonna pull us over. She's all, "Kiss me. I know you want to kiss me. Kiss me." And I'm like, and luckily I paused. I stuttered, and I'm like going, I'm driving. That's all I could say was, "I'm driving." We get pulled over. We're sitting there. Cop, flashlight in my eyes. I'm seeing trails like crazy, but I'm still keeping up with it and stuff. And he's doing this and doing that, and he knows I'm on something. He just can't prove it. They kick us free, and we go back to that house. She goes in the house, and she comes out, and she goes to the side of the house with this girl, and the girl sticks her finger down her throat, and she throws up. And basically, she took me to the house to pick up, and she swallowed her balloon. When the cop pulled us over, so she had to get it out, and she was trying to kick it onto me. When, of course, all she had to do was throw it on the floor, and I would have gone, and but yeah, she tried to basically put it into my mouth when she kissed me, when she was going to kiss me, is what I figured out. And I don't remember if I left her there or what, but it took me, it was probably a good 10 years before I figured out that's what was going on. But that was, that was a close one. Continued on tripping the rest of the night, Hey, that's rad, cool, cops, yeah, This happened, that happened. My friends don't know her. She don't know my friends. Never saw her again. Nobody knows nobody. So we go on.
So when do you think drugs became a problem for you?
When I ran out, they were a problem when I ran out. Kicking coke, kicking meth, coming down off of acid. Acid wasn't a hard come down. I didn't like crack because crack was really weird. It wasn't a hard come down for me. I never jonesed smoking crack. I would get high, but I still enjoyed snorting it more. It didn't hit me the same, and it was shorter. And then it was like I was just back to normal. It didn't last nearly long enough. I enjoyed speed, but when I'd run out of speed, of course, there was all this stuff. Now, I lost jobs because I not because I'd show up drunk, because I wouldn't show up. Then I'd show up knowing I'm fired, just, hey, where's my last check? I'm out of here, whatever. When I was 13, my mom went through a self-help program called EST, and it did wonders for her. And then she sent me through it at 13. And what I learned was more life skills without the baggage, is what I want to say. The life skills I learned there are what primed me for my life, to put me in the rooms of the people that were powerful, that, we're sitting in this room, but that room over there has kilos in it, kind of thing. And I knew I didn't want to get involved with that stuff, but I just learned skills about life and how to get things and how to be somewhere and be invisible and, act as if they say, you ever want to just walk into somewhere, carry a ladder or a clipboard and act pissed off that you're there, and you get in anywhere. He's someone, if you got a clipboard and they ask them their name and start writing it down and then act pissed off and, and they would just want to get you away from them. Shit like that. You don't need to teach kids skills like this. That's not what I learned there, but it's kind of like that. Social hacking is what it's called. I became an expert at social hacking by the time I was 15. Get pulled over by a cop, act panicked, act like something's wrong, act like, I used to smoke cloves. Oh, the cherry freaking just went in my lap. I'm sorry. I'm just, and I had one lit and I would actually drop it in my lap and burn my pants. Or start talking before they had a chance to ask us, hey, my friend's out driving his new car, we're out looking for him. Can you help us? He just got a vet and we're worried about him. He's had a couple of beers. We're scared and don't want to do this, but this is just not looking good. And my friends are going, what the hell are you doing talking to a cop? Don't you know we got weed sitting in our lap right now? They're in their car and I'm in my car and we're sitting side by side, middle of the street. Of course the cop's going to stop and see what's going on. I did that and everyone looked at me like, what the hell's wrong with you? What are you doing? They were in shock that the cop was there and we were about to all get busted. And I just kind of addressed them with no fear, showing no fear, and just social hacking. I became an expert at social hacking. Without even really knowing it. I didn't know why I could do that. I didn't know why I could come up with answers and solutions so fast, other than it just was like, yeah. And to me, is because of that hypervigilance, that hypervigilance and not really always being in reality, always having a back room in my mind that some fantasy is going on, some non-reality to this day is still happening. I could be sitting here talking to you and we're having a great conversation, but my mind is somewhere else doing something else in the back part. I don't know if other people do that or I
I'm the same way. It takes a lot for me to pay attention.
It can for me also. Too much coffee or not enough sleep. Yeah, I can't focus, but in the meetings, I will sit there and play cards. Last night I was at a speaker meeting and I was playing solitaire. So just to it's like having a third arm and it's always fucking causing problems and shit. This is like giving that third arm a job. So my other two hands can do what I want to do. That's kind of how my mind is. It's always got to be doing something. And if it ain't doing something, I'll be gone. That disassociation, like that, it is a light switch for me. Which brings me back up to my mom sending me to S. What I learned in S, the biggest tool was meditation. Drugs, the problem with drugs was running out. I would go on a 5-day binge, know that I had to sleep. I had the wherewithal to say I had to sleep. I need to save a quarter gram. I would do a line, lay down. So it would calm my body down and put my body into a meditative position, a physical position. Close my eyes, my arms here, my feet here, cross, this, that. Ritual, create the ritual of meditation. And I would not in a spiritual manner, of course, because I was freaking high as hell. But I would lay there for 5 or 6 hours in a trance. I would go into my trance, and it was the closest thing to sleep I had for 3 years. Was when I would do this, and I could do it anywhere at any time, in a truck, this, that. Now I can, at any rate, I could do this. That's how I managed my health and my mind, um, when um, when using meth. That was what took me down. That was my. I could have done cocaine for a lot longer. I could have done pot, drink, all that was, but meth, I could, quarter gram in a line. Um, that's a hell of a hit to the body. Half a gram in two lines at one up one nostril, one up the other. You know, um, which brings me to when it became a problem was when I wasn't dying fast enough. Dying did not scare me. Suffering scares me to this day. Pain scares me. Been in accidents, number of accidents all through my life. Head-on collisions, bunch of times. I had COVID, was hours away from being intubated. That was back in 2001. A whole bunch of I should have died. I almost died, kind of thing. Numerous times in my life. 4 years old in a car accident. Bicycle, went off a jump, connected with someone when I was in midair, landed on my head, could have died. Hit a tree on a motorcycle. My mom was driving by the freeway. She left my dad by that point. Was driving by the freeway and goes, something happened to Frank. Pulls off. Where's Frank? Where's Frank? He went for a ride on the motorcycle. I came walking up with no motorcycle. Frank, what are you doing? I have no idea. What's going on, guys? And they start panicking. And I'm like looking at them going, what? What's wrong? What? What happened? Why are we panicking? And you had a motorcycle. I don't have a motorcycle, guys. And the guy whose motorcycle was, Frank, where's my bike? And I'm like, what? What is it? What, guys? Mom, what's happening? And I just woke up on the lawn and walked home. That's all I knew. Woke up in the hospital a few days ago. That was all told to me. I woke up in the hospital a few days ago. Don't remember any of it. Could have died.
When did it become a
sorry.
big enough? No, it's okay. When did it become a big enough problem that you said to yourself, I need to stop this and I need to get sober?
Okay, back to that. Doing half a gram at a time, speed. I'd go down going, okay, this might kill me. Oh, fuck it, let's do it. And I'd get up and go, nope, that wasn't it. And then it turned into, damn it, that wasn't it. And I knew I was going to live a long life. I knew I'm not going out like this. And that scared me. It wasn't dying. It wasn't what I was doing to my mom, what I was doing to my friends, the people who cared for me. My dealer asked me to stop coming around because I'm going to loosen this up a little bit. Other people would see me and go, you know what? I don't need, just give me a 16th. I don't need a whole 8-ball because I don't want to be that guy. I didn't look horrible. I acted horrible. My mind was going. My mind was fried. I was twitchy. I was this. I was that. And it was like I was, every dealer's nightmare. I was the fable, the walking, don't let this happen to you poster kid. And so I was like, I'll come meet you. You got money, I'll come meet you. No more fronts, no more this, no more that. You're a junkie now, And it was my friend Steve selling me the speed, along with my two neighbors. Guy next to me, Greg, I can say his name, Greg Flam. He passed recently, and Jim Kirby up the street. Jim Kirby became a cook. Greg was a dealer / user. The three of us got into trouble. We made explosives, and all that stuff. And they saw me slowly decline into the person they didn't want around. Greg went on to do amazing things with his life in his addiction. Um, like, of all things, one of the few people in the entire world who can tear down and rebuild and repair wooden pipe organs. And I don't mean this, some size of your TV. I'm talking about church pipe organs with works, with bellows, and stuff that's been around for 200 years. He became one of the few people in the world who could do that in his addiction. And I do say addiction because he used like I did. He never got sober. He used like I did. He ran with me. He could do with me just as much as I could. And then Jim Kirby, he was an addict like I was. And he lived the life I escaped. Jim Kirby lived the life, went on to get deeper, ended up through my connections, um, family, blood family in gangs, both sides ended up involved in the Mongols, selling guns to the Mongols motorcycle club, selling, Jim Kirby did also. He went to rehab a few years ago, 2 years ago. He called up Greg and said, I need somewhere to live. And Greg said, you can't live here. There's nowhere for you to work. You don't have any money. I'm on the road. I'm a trucker. So Jim Kirby went and landed himself in a hotel after straight from rehab, took all the money he had, bought all the liquor he could, and set out to and drank himself to death in a hotel. Tore Greg up. I believe that the broken heart that Greg suffered from that led to his death. That's the whole thing. But these guys, my decline was much steeper than them, and they stopped wanting me around a little bit. So one time I got sober. I'm just gonna do this. I'm just gonna smoke pot. I went to one meeting high, and I used to say, and they kicked me out. No, I talked about someone sharing. They said, we don't do that here, please. Please be respectful of other people. And I heard, what the fuck? Get the fuck out of here. That's what it sounded like. Because that's what I used to think of for years. And then it was like, oh yeah, that's right. They probably just, that is what they said was, please respect others. That's what it sounded like, and that kind, and that gentle. I'm gonna have my dogs coming in here in a couple of minutes. So my my egg my using went such that sorry, I unplugged it. I'm gonna walk into my room here just so I don't have to deal with my dogs and stuff. So that was my first meeting, as I walked myself out of it due to my head. My next meeting, I was kind of clean, and I said, okay, I'm going to stop all this. And then I went and in one weekend, I did everything but acid. Did pot, did I believe PCP or something, and did um drinking. The woman I can't say dating, she was married. There's a married woman I was sleeping with, and she did heroin with her friends, and her best friend was in the cholos and gangbangers, and so they did heroin together and scored from them that night. All this stuff, just chaos. And I woke up the next day, went home, didn't wake up, went home the next day on my motorcycle, and proceeded to just hate life and hate myself, and said, this isn't ending fast enough. So I am going to end it. And I picked up the phone and I called an Alano club and a woman answered, Allison. I don't remember her name, but I decided her name was Allison. I showed up. She was someone who had not gotten sober early. And I say that because she never gained long-term sobriety, but she was around AA for many years. And she would go out on binges, blackout. Um, she did alcohol like I did meth, and it showed, just the typical, we all know what that means, basically. If you're here, you know what I'm talking about. She died 6 months later. But I was so grateful when I got to meet her in person. I showed up and shook her hand, hugged her. I shook her hand and she hugged me. And I went into the meeting and I kept my mouth shut and I stayed. That was December 3rd, 1990. Um, and I remember going to my family reunion, um, sober, and people found out. And first of all, because I was there, you know, um, some 22 days later, I was at my family Christmas gathering, and people found out I was sober, and were all supportive. And then the next year, when I got my first year, my mom uh, threw me a party and invited a bunch of people, and I took her outside and I said, Mom, Alcoholics Anonymous, as in, you know, we don't tell people. And she says, Frank, you kind of blew your anonymity when you started looking human and you started coming around and you started talking to people and you could talk, you know, you could have a conversation with people. That kind of blew yourself out of the water that you were capable of that. At that point, the rule had been I could go to my mom's house, but um, I had to leave before the sun goes down. And that was because I went there one night and I stayed for a few months, sleeping on her living room floor. They had a one-bedroom uh, condo. Is actually a three-bedroom, which they took the two other bedrooms and made them one room. So it was a really nice place, really nice condo, big condo with a master suite that was awesome, and a upstairs den that was awesome, TV room den, and then a downstairs without a TV, and all like lavish lavender carpet and purple and just high quality stuff in Newport Beach, and just could not believe where my mom was living and how she was living. And matter of fact, when she moved there, I had spent all night again on acid, with Jim Kirby and some other people. And she called Jim Kirby's house and said, Frank said he was going to help me move, knowing that we were over there fucked up. And she says, you tell Frank I don't care what condition he's in, he's helping me move. Tell him get here. Okay, so I'm driving up this street in Chino to Montclair Central. It's a main drag. And coming down off of acid. And I look over at this stoplight at Philadelphia, and what I see is a demon. And it could have been someone wearing a mask, but I was still high just enough that I could see their facial expressions moving. So I don't know what I saw. All I knew is that, that's freaking terrifying. Wow. Okay, so, quick dashboard check. We're on acid. We see shit. This is not, I've been coming down for a while. I'm fine, blah, blah, blah. And, terrified. And I drive off and I haul ass. And it looks like this person's in the window of their windshield driving and waving their fist at me in the mirror. And I'm just like terrified, trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. And pull up to the next light and they pull up next to me and it's still the same terrifying face. And I'm just like, damn, that's gnarly. terrified, out of my gourd, keeping my composure completely, somehow, some way. And then drove off and never saw it again. Went on and, you know, hey mom, sorry I'm late. I'm sorry. She's all, yeah, get some boxes, get us loaded, and they go move down to Newport Beach. We moved them down to Newport Beach, and so that was that. And then, you know, got sober, ended up at her house, was still using. She kicks me out. Don't come here if the sun ain't up. Um, Year later, year sober, I moved from Rancho Cucamonga, where I got sober, to San Clemente, and I was in heaven. Um, the deal was moved down there with another alcoholic, two other alcoholics, one bedroom apartment at the beach. Um, Remodeled the apartment, meaning the resand the floors, build a wall, do this, do that, make it an apartment versus an office. And you can live here for 3 months free and then start paying rent. And that was Memorial Day weekend. That was Memorial Day weekend. Moved into San Clemente Beach House, worked on the apartment, lived on coffee and clove cigarettes. All three of us drank coffee. All three of us smoked clove cigarettes. Um, and we would go lay out at the beach. Um, I knew that if I was going to do this and make it happen, I need to keep my dick in my pants and not even get carried away with, don't try and fuck around with Terry at all. Don't be that person. And Dave, the other guy, did. It went exactly as you think. They moved into the one bedroom. I slept in the living room. Dave's nature came out. He became a bully. I was a bully victim growing up. We fell into our roles, and Terry was just disgusted in both of us because of the whole dance. If Dave didn't stand up and bully me, I would just be pathetic and cower and just be a victim, you know, and which of course would piss off her and Dave, and so Dave would bully me. It was my social norm. That was my social norm. That's what I knew. I had no other way how to not be who I was at that point. Um, um, let's see here. Moving on to the
Yeah,
next significant thing was,
yeah, let's talk about recovery. So
yeah,
what did you do? How long ago is it that you could say the last time you used was? How long have you been sober? You said pretty good time, right?
9 months. So
9 months. So
December I got sober. Um, well, 6 months. Memorial Day weekend, I moved down there. So that's end of May. So 6 months, 7 months. That's 7 months I moved to the beach at that point. Going to meetings, San Clemente Fellowship Center, um, got to know people. Social hacking in the program is super easy because people want to get to know you. They want to let you in. They want to take you in. I freaking worm myself in so tight that I couldn't go use. No, I'm saying that, and it's so lent itself to me, um, and to my skills. My skill sets are what got me sober in that sense. What I did, how I did my social engineering, as awkward and as immature I was. I landed a job, which I had for 12 years after that. Um, got into relationships, out of relationships. That's a whole other. I also attend SLAA, Sex Love Addicts Anonymous. When I got 10 years in sobriety, I ended up going there. That's a whole other story. Um, uh, so the dynamic breaks down. I end up moving out of the apartment, live here, live there. Actually end up going and living with Steve for a bit. my best friend, and then I had to move out of there. I had a job, could do this, could do that. But my recovery, I got to my fifth step when I was living at the apartment. I had tiled the apartment, but there was one piece left that I needed to do, a corner piece, and um, it was cut, it was ready to go. Um, I just needed to put it on, and I just never did it, never did it, never did it. I did my fifth step, went home, put the fucking piece of tile on. You know, it was just that niche was filled. The recovery was real slow after that. Um, I was 23 when I got sober. Um, Certain events, it was real murky for me in my head. I kind of measure it via relationships because I am also a serial relationshipist, meaning with my skills, I could always find a girl. I could always find a girlfriend. Um, with my uh, basically take a hostage or inflict myself upon others was more like it. They called relationships. I call them relationships. Other people called it, how are you fucking up this girl's life now? Um, and then I loved being sober. I love being sober so much. I loved having a life. I love being able to get a job. I love being able to move forward with things and do things and go places, conventions. Conventions were a high for me. The first convention, well, let's back up a little bit. I went to a 12-step seminar in Santa Monica, and I met a woman there, Patty, and Patty knocked me off my feet, just looks wise and personality wise. And at one point, we were out in the parking lot, and she says, "Blah blah blah. I am a professional dominatrix," and um, I was sold. I stood there glued to the ground, and people left, and I just looked at her and I said, I would give anything to experience what it is you do. And that is one of the most addict things I've ever, that is, I mean, to me, I went from smoking pot straight to doing heroin with her, not with what I learned with her. Not her, but me. That life was heroin to me. Um, and uh, at 10 years, I went into SLAA because of that relationship that started with that. I would give anything to experience what it is you do, and I did. I changed the word anything to everything. Um, my uh, sex love addiction really makes my drug use look like a bad Sanka binge, a bad day sitting at Starbucks, you know, um, because I gave everything to that addiction. I don't want to say that woman. I don't want to say that relationship because it wasn't her. It was me. It wasn't the relationship. It was addiction. I know to this day I have to remember every once in a while. I know more about addiction than I do love. When I look at someone and I say I love you, I have to remember that I know more about addiction than I do love. I can be addicted to men and women. Um, there are guys who don't like me being around me just because I vibe on their energy. I just love being around them, and I love and I start acting weird, and it's not a sexual thing. It's just I get addicted to their personality and what they do and all that, and but women, that is my demonstration of addiction, you know, and this is sober. I never went out over a woman, never went out over anything, money, broke, homeless, in sobriety, never went out again. But I revisited that relationship with that woman 3 times. And the last time I went into SLAA over it, I was talking to someone on the phone, and and I said something and said something, and then they said, so and so, so and so, so and so, and I said yes, and this person says, I sponsor so and so who is in here because of that person also, and I knew then that whenever I was going to be with this person, I was going to be in my addiction. I cannot just be friends with her. I cannot socially do X. I can't socially do. And that recovery um, uh, is still ongoing. I could still become addicted to the fantasy. There's in that recovery, there's fantasy addiction, there's sex addiction, there's love addiction. And I am the kind of love addict that is, I'll give you anything if you just love me. Please love me. Not, I'll give you anything if you give me sex. Sex is part of it. Love sex, still have sex. Um, Still part of my life. But the love is certainly the addiction part, and that's where my recovery program, you know, um, got into recovery, really into recovery in Cocaine Anonymous. Got sober in AA.
So
Went to
you were going,
CAA for 20 years.
so you went to some different anonymous groups for
Yeah,
each addiction.
yeah, yeah.
So do you credit that with your recovery?
I credit that to my recovery and being ready to do what is called upon me to do. I credit my recovery to, being willing to ask Scott to sponsor me and being willing to do what he asked of me. Um, Being willing to, you know, be of service, be a secretary, be a treasurer, which I was a treasurer once at a meeting and I stole the money, and I was just like, okay, yeah, I'm not good at that. I paid it back. I made my amends to the meeting, but yeah, it just, and it's funny because it's not like, all right, I got this money. Is like, I was horrible with money and I mismanaged everything, spent all my bill money, buying a surfboard, um, didn't use my savings, spent it on and then I used my money from the meeting to pay my bills. And then once they caught me, then I took it out of my savings and made the amends, and I still owed a little bit more. And, and it's like, that's how, and, and so that kind of in recovery, that turned into outright stealing. I stole things. My addiction to sex and love from X, I just will refer to as X, took me to the point to where one of the times we got together, she told me Steven had a motorcycle, her previous boyfriend, and she really liked the motorcycle. I broke up with her. I stopped seeing her, whatever. I fucked up on that relationship with her that dating session with her. And after we broke up, I stole computers from my job to buy a motorcycle to impress the woman who I had just broken up with. That is how bad my disease and addiction is. Is that was a good idea. Let's take it that far. Break up with her, steal from work, buy a motorcycle to impress her, and never even tell her I got a motorcycle. And that was at like 8 years. That was at like 8 years sobriety. So recovery, questionable. You know, how much recovery does that show? You know, I was going to meetings. I probably would have used, if I wasn't so ensconced into recovery social life, if I had not embedded myself so fully, used my skills to get so tight in the social aspect of recovery, I most certainly probably would have gone out. But I was, the love addiction kept me sober, physically sober for a while. These cool people who did this and they did that and they did this. My first convention was with X, and we go to bed and we see people. We get there on Friday. We see people. We go to bed. 3 a.m. A little voice in my head wakes me up and says something's happening somewhere and you're missing it. And I could not sleep. And half an hour later, I got up and I went and found it. And what it was my friend Tim from South Africa had brought his espresso machine and decided, this is my key to get a room. I'm going to bring my espresso machines, hang out in the hospitality room until someone says, hey, I've got space on the floor you can crash on. And I had espresso for the first time in my sobriety. I had it once a long time ago, but I had my first espresso that morning. And I barely saw X during the whole convention because I was off running. We were off doing our own thing. She was playing doing this, and I was playing doing that, and it was insane. I was absolutely in heaven, and I didn't sleep the whole rest of the weekend.
So what, did you become addicted to espresso?
Pardon?
What, did you become addicted to espresso?
Oh no, I didn't need it. I only had one, and that was just to keep me up till the sun came up.
Okay. So
But my adrenaline of just stuff happening. You go to a convention and there's stuff happening 24/7 at the convention. That alone, I just went and did. I went and did. I was crazy by the end of it. It took me a good 4 days to recover from the convention. It was just that much adrenaline to me to just go and do and be and be seen and see,
isn't
and
that a
that's how
good thing though?
conventions went for a number of years. Pardon?
Isn't that a good thing though?
Deviant behavior,
Oh well,
now
no,
that
no,
my
I
life
don't.
is in
I
balance.
mean, being that involved in the group. What deviant behavior? I thought you didn't do anything with X.
Um, with now when you say X, you mean ecstasy or X person?
X
Miss
person. You
X.
said that you guys went to bed early and then you got up and went to your friend Tim and had espresso. So you didn't
Yeah,
do anything deviant.
the adrenaline of just being at the convention.
That's what I'm
Literally
saying.
the
Isn't that okay?
no. I mean it's you know, staying up and being excited, getting spun on something is getting spun on something, you know. Just because it's a quote unquote 12-step thing, fuck man, service work. I've seen people abuse service work, fucking straight up mainline it. And that ended in a GSO meeting, clearing the room. One guy has his hands around another guy, calling him a motherfucker, holding him on the hood of someone else's car in the parking lot in a GSO meeting. A lot of recovery in that meeting, A lot of program in that meeting. It was service. How could it go wrong? We're addicts. That's how. Bottom
Let me
line was
ask you.
just a.
So
Hmm?
let's go to, because we're getting towards the end here. I want to talk about your recovery. So you said you started
Actual
nine.
recovery. Okay, so actual.
It
I'm
was
I'm
nine
sorry.
months.
You're right.
Let's start from 9 months ago till today.
9 months ago till today. Um, I will say this: Miss X changed my life. I I do not live a traditional life. I now live in a poly house, polyamorous. I have a main partner. She has a another partner who lives with us also. The three of us are in a relationship. I was in a relationship with two women before this one, and it went well until um you know, they and that was 15 years ago. I lived with them. But they were drinking, you know, and people say, "Oh, well, yeah, this and that." It's like, no, we were in a uh we were in a poly relationship and it was doing well. It's just that after a while, their drinking took off and they became my tequila flavored lesbians. And I had to leave, obviously. Woke up one day going, this is it. Last night was it. I'm done. I'm out. Never went back. Went to work, never came home. And there's tragedy in that. But um, 9 months ago, Trish was just dating someone. Um, and it went well. And now he lives here and he's in the program also. Trish is not in the program, um, and that is actually going very well. We have balance. Life is going on. Um, this week, I'll start with this week and go backwards a little bit. Monday, woke up. Trish's ex-husband was found dead. Monday morning. Um, he was schizophrenic and alienated from his family who lived in the same town, small town in Ohio. And Trish had to socially engineer through Facebook. Does anyone know where this apartment window is? I used to live under that apartment window. I need the address. So and so lives in the apartment this window picture was taken from. It's here, there. He's dead. She has to now tell her daughter, who her daughter was very close to her ex-husband. They went to Ohio this week to take care of that. That's a whole bunch of drama because his family didn't know where he was. He was in there dead for a month. Um, then um, work. I work. I do industrial hygienist. I oversee the management of hazardous waste. I've been doing a big project. Got told um, everything's wrong. Stop what you're doing for the last 2 weeks. Big project. It's like, okay. Um, and then my morning meeting, um, it was like 6 people to 8 people every day for 2 years. One guy running it, and I started going to another Zoom meeting, and I said we're missing newcomers, and I opened it up. I said we need to put this to a vote. We got to do something. This is stale Zoom meeting. Um, and I said we got to open it up, and they said you're right. We need newcomers in here to carry the message to. And so we did that. And the very first meeting, we opened it up. We got Zoom bombed, mismanaged, bad timing, no training. Um, and then we all got kicked. That was the first one. The guy running it says, I can't do this. Um, I can't handle kicking people out of the meeting. Um, I, I resign. And I looked at everyone else and said, we got to pick up the pieces. We got to run our meeting. The second day I was in charge, something happened and got kicked out of the meeting, lost internet, and Next thing you know, the meeting is running with no one in it and we can't get into it. And it's like being in a boat, hit a bump, everyone falls out of the boat and the boat just keeps on going down the river. Everyone's in the water, the boat's just running. Don't know how it happened. It was a freak thing. The person who owned the meeting couldn't get to it. And that was it. That was the day, and I basically couldn't be there for Trish, couldn't go with Trish because of my job. But my job's fucked up and now I'm frozen. And now I've killed off my morning meeting. And it's Tuesday. What now? The recovery is that I'm with my partner as much as I can be over the phone and Marco Polo. I didn't accuse or point fingers. I only look for solutions at my job. I called and I took my inventory. Did I push this person? Did I push my meeting? Did I destroy my meeting? Did I do this? I talked to people. I talked to the people who who disagreed with me. And I wanted their criticisms. What did I do wrong? How do I do this? Do I, how do I make things right between us? That was my week. I'm so glad that week's over. um, I have a job that I absolutely love. I have a golden finger. You put a sign on that, put tape around that, put plastic on it, get that out of your mouth. That kills you. That's my fucking job. And then I write about it, write reports. And I work around stuff and construction sites and go places and all that stuff. And I absolutely love it. I'm in construction. I've done construction most of my life and I don't have to get in there and break my back anymore. Being 55, that's important to, not risk my physical body anymore because my dad did it. He's paying the price. Other people my age are doing that. I had the wherewithal to stop and do something to change that trajectory. This is my recovery today. I don't do service work, but I work with a lot of newcomers to the best of my ability. I take people into my home. My home is open to anyone 24/7. They need somewhere to stay. I've got a couch. You can stay here till the sun comes up. And then you got to go because I get up at 4:30 and you're leaving when I'm leaving. You can't, there is no staying in my house 24 hours a day unless you're paying rent or living here. Um, I go to a meeting every day still. AA is still part of, I haven't been to a CA meeting in a while, but AA I go to for me because I do AA. And several years ago, I had COVID and diabetes, untreated diabetes. My A1C was 10.6. Came within hours of dying and had to sit on Zoom meetings and watch my family watch me die. I had the easy part in that, and I know that. I just had to lay in the bed and die or recover. Something in my head said, I'm not going out like you don't go out like this, Frank. Don't worry about it. You don't go out like this. And I'm still here today. That's what I know. I stopped worrying.
It's all that matters that you're here today, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Um,
So it
my
sounds like you.
recovery,
Oh, I'm
my
sorry.
recovery, I can sum up with something I brought up before. And inside me is love and faith. Love is an action. I don't tell people I love you means I like the way you make me feel. That's why when I say love, I'm probably thinking addiction. I love, I will hug people, I will touch people, I will talk to people, I will acknowledge people, I will listen to people, I will do things for people. I do give addicts and fellow alcoholics money when they need it. One, to go back and get their law license, to get their law, to become reinstated as a lawyer. One, to pay rent. Um, One, to do this and do that. And it's because I have it, and it's what it's there for. It's a tool. It's not a precious thing to me. Knowing
That's
these
great.
people are actually doing it is important.
It sounds like what you're doing is keeping you sober.
Yes. Yeah.
So
You
that's
know,
great. So I think it's getting close to a good point to wrap it up. I need to ask you one last question that I ask everybody though. Do you have any advice for people watching and listening?
learn to say, I want to drink. Learn to say, I want to use. Because when you are not willing to do that, you're not going to be prepared to when you have to tell another alcoholic. Learn to pick up the phone, build a rapport with someone, be honest about your feelings. Everyone goes out over feelings. Feelings are what take you out. I feel this, I want to feel something else. Escapism. You know, that's it. Um, that's it. You know, feelings are what take us out. Learn to talk about your feelings and talk about your feelings. Be willing to go into a meeting. I did shut up one time for someone one time when they complained about me talking. A month later, that motherfucker went out, and I cannot believe I did that. That was my lesson in that. I stayed sober. He didn't. Who the fuck am I gonna not? I'm not shutting up for you. You know, if you're worried about what I'm saying, you're not worried about getting sober or recovery. That's what I know.
It's
Learn
great.
to say, I want to drink because you're an addict, because you're an alcoholic. I want to use. I want to drink. Thank
So
you.
say it to
Thank you so
yourself and
much,
learn to
Jim.
say no.
Pardon?
So you say it to yourself and learn to say no, I can't do that.
I can't let others determine my program, or I don't understand the question. I'm sorry.
No, because you're saying you want to say to yourself, I want to drink. I'm assuming the only reason you would say that to yourself is so you could say to yourself, well, I can't do that. Otherwise,
Exactly.
why would you say to yourself, I want to drink? Because you
Oh, no, 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 not to myself. No, to myself, yeah, but um if I can tell you, Jim, I want to drink so fucking bad right now. What are you going to do?
I'm going to try and help you.
There you go. That's exactly what I'm after. You know,
Okay, got you.
you got to be willing to tell another alcoholic. You got to be willing to pick up the phone and say, you know, I want to drink. I feel like I want to drink. I feel this. And you don't get there just, it's not a light switch. It's not a, okay, I want to drink. What do I do? If I can't tell you that, if I can't express that, you know, it's because I didn't tell you, Jim, um, Trish did this and it hurt my feelings, you know. Um,
No,
if
I
I'm not
understand now.
willing
I
to,
got what you're saying.
yeah, if I'm not willing to share my feelings and my emotions and be honest, when I was married to I've been married twice in sobriety and fucked up both of those marriages. Um, when I was cheating on my second wife for a few months before I left, I told someone I'm having an affair. You know, there was someone I don't even remember who the fuck that was, but I remember having that conversation. That was important
So
because
you
that was
need
me
what you're
getting
saying
high.
is you need to be honest with yourself.
Yes, you
Okay.
have to be honest with yourself because if that is ever, I want to drink and you're not honest about it, you're gonna drink. You
Yeah.
know,
No, I
a
got
grateful
you.
heart will not drink. A grateful heart will not drink. Um,
Understood.
you know, the 12, I this is I only share this on my birthdays and I'll share it with you guys at a convention. At that convention with Miss X, I heard the speaker say the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous did not open up the gates and let me into heaven. It opened up the gates and let me out of hell. So powerful to me. That's my recovery. It let me out of hell. It didn't let me into heaven. I'm not perfect. I'm not, my life isn't perfect, but I don't drink. It let me out of there. It let me out of all that. I don't drink and I don't use drugs and I don't do that anymore. And I have a chance to build relationships without addiction. I have a chance to earn money without addiction. I have a chance to have sex without addiction. I have a chance to be angry. I don't have a problem with being angry. I have a problem with what I do because I'm angry sometimes. I don't act right when I'm angry. Angry is an emotion. I'm gonna get angry. I'm gonna get hurt. I'm gonna be in pain. You know, pain is mandatory. Suffering is optional. You know, if you're digging a hole, first step one, stop digging. If you're in pain, tell someone, I'm in pain. I did this. They did that. This happened. I'm in pain. Because if I don't tell you I'm in pain, I'm not going to tell you. If I can't tell you I'm hurt, I can't tell you I'm going to drink.
Yeah, no, I got you. Understood. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast today. I think that's a bunch of great advice. You've got quite the story. Also, I think a lot of people are going to relate to this.
Well, I hope so. There's a lot that I left out, but within us we have love and faith. The minute it leaves us, you're in want. Want left alone becomes desire. Desire left to itself becomes lust. Lust leads us to deviant behavior. The 12 steps back into the love and faith allows me to show faith and have faith in my fellows and to show them love,
That's
you
great.
know, which I
I
reach
really,
down inside. I've
yeah,
been in a fight and stop and then told the person just stop mid swing and told them, I'm sorry. You want to fucking disarm a guy, stop and apologize to him, and then ask him, then make it clear that you don't want to hurt him and you want to know why he's so angry, why they're in pain, why. I've done that. It changes things. It changes people.
absolutely.
I learned that here.
The
Thank you.
truth really helps. Absolutely.
Yes.
But yeah, we're getting close to the end. Did you, last question, do you have anything you want to say as far as adding anything in?
I hope I didn't waste your time if you made it to this point. Um, you know, um, don't get sober to not have fun. Um, I don't live my life the way many people do, but I live my life. I get to live my life today. That is the biggest gift I'm so grateful for. So grateful I get to be who I am today. You know, so just thank you. Thank you for everything you guys do to keep me sober. I can lose everything today and still be happy knowing, and I've done that. I've lost everything twice in sobriety. Um, kept moving, stayed sober, came back. You guys helped me get through that. You know, the good, bad, and the ugly, all of it. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Francis. I really appreciate that. So, just want to say thank you. Thank you for taking the time to open up to us and share your story. But do me a favor and sit tight. Let me do the little sales pitch for us here. And for everybody watching and listening, if you like what you saw and heard, go below and give us a like. Also, subscribe to see when we upload new videos. You can check us out on all social media. We're on Twitter, Reddit, Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, TikTok. You name it, you'll probably find us on it. Also, I suggest checking out our website, which is www.addicts-anonymous.com. There you find plenty of free resources as well as free literature. We also have a book coming out. I'm hoping it'll be out mid to late February. It's called Addicts Anonymous, Our Stories. It's going to be a great book. I hope everyone's going to enjoy it, and I'll keep you posted as to when that will be available for sale. So I hope you enjoyed today. That's all we have. And until next time.